Hello and welcome to episode 44 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick, and with me this week I have Club Chairman and East Midlands Section Secretary John Griffiths, Club Manager and White Van Man Nick Wright, Board Member, MiTo Registrar and Advocate for the Abolition of Rear Doors, except on his own Julia, David Faithful, and newly elected Board Member, Thames Valley Section Secretary and GT Registrar Kirsty Hodson. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Guy.
I thought it would be good if we all got together again. It's been a while since we did a round table. And a lot of the members will have seen through social media, Duncan was posting some things live from the event, that we had a bit of a get-together a couple of weekends ago now for the board and all of the section secretaries and all of the model registrars. Can you tell us a little bit about why we did that and what we did, John?
Yeah, so in the past, we've always wanted to get section secretaries and registrars together. It used to be at 2-year intervals, and way back we used to have the lot together. Then we split them apart because we thought the mechanisms and messages were going to be quite a bit different. But post-pandemic, we thought, why not get the lot together so we can share messages about what the club's doing and to really interact together over, getting some actual designs together of how to make things even better. It also happened that it was our biannual general meeting, of course. So we thought we'd really boost the numbers for those, because anything that has that level of formality in any club, it's very difficult to get people to go to. That's been true of the Alfa Club since I was involved initially 30 odd years ago. But to get 60 plus people together in a room was really, really good. I mean, at the general meeting itself, that was really the start of it all. That's where we had some super messages to give out about membership levels being up. We've gone from 3,700 2 years ago when we last had a general meeting to nearly 4,200 now, which is just fantastic. And that's on the back of going through a pandemic, for goodness sake, when, we were making budget assumptions that we might have as few as 3,000 members by the end of that. But for it to be up at its highest level effectively ever is just remarkable.
And I think we always kind of think that, one of the key things that we do that engages members and keeps the membership up is the events, which obviously disappeared for the best part of the year. But I think it, bringing the two threads of that weekend together, it emphasises the role that the section secretaries and the model registrars play in keeping the club together and driving it forward.
Absolutely. And for many people, and I think I basically closed the general meeting bit on this, that for many people, the local section is the club. It's where they meet people frequently. It's where they do things at a local level, all kinds of different activities, indoor and outdoor, during the year. And it's really critical that people are all on the same page about things and can share best practices, ideas, and so on. So that was really valuable. And again, during the whole lockdown period, we know the club had to adapt. A lot of those meetings went to Zoom. And of course, then we had things like this podcast appeared for entertainment for members, the virtual racing, all of the various other online activities like the Pirelli Zoom sessions that we had. And then the club just kept pushing ahead with the affinity scheme with Alfa Romeo that's recently been extended more out across Fiat, Commercial, Abarth, as well as Jeep. And that momentum's really kept going. It was great to have people in the room to discuss all of that and how beneficial it's been, really. And, of course, that culminated at the end of last year with us winning the Club of the Year with the Classic and Sports Car Awards, which was great. And it was good to get together to enjoy that, really.
And, again, it's nice to have that recognition, but I think that's amplified by the increase in membership. It's not just that Classic and Sports Car magazine think we're the best club. We're attracting members to back that up.
Absolutely. And online too, we surged up to nearly 12,000 people on the Facebook group, for example. But obviously, they're not all paying members, but an awful lot are interested in the club, which is an important thing and what we do. And it's been better this year, of course, with a bit of more of a return to normality. And we were discussing things during the weekend, like events at a national level and local level, and sharing some best practice. I mean, just look back to the summer. We've had some of the best events I can remember in ages. Midlands Italian Car Day, Southwest Alfa Day, the Autumn Alfa Day event in Yorkshire were all really good fun. And then, of course, National Alfa Day was enormous. I think, as we said on one of these podcasts before, that event in June was really like the cork coming off the bottle, and to have 1,800 people together was just brilliant. And again, local level, there were loads of interesting things shared between registrars and section secretaries about the things that they found successful in the past for members to enjoy, and some really good thought and ideas for what new things people can try out too.
Just coming back to the member numbers, you mentioned new members joining, Guy, but it's also we're retaining existing members a lot more than we have been in the past. I think our churn's down to 13% or something. We believe car club average is 20-25, something like that. So that's all helps, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does. And I think one thing that came out with having the registrars there, of course, we've got the various model registers. Is it 29 now, I think, David? It's around that figure anyway. And of course, they can be very different. The 1900 model register is very different to the MiTo register or the Giulietta or the new Giulia register. But it's just showing that we're putting as much effort across the piece with every model. It's not just a focus on a single car that this club's about. We embrace the lot, and we try and do that across everything from the shows that we have, the way that we arrange the cars together across all of the Facebook offerings, for example, and where people can link up.
So, Nick, I know the reality is that pretty much everything that happens in this club passes across your desk at one point or another. What was your perspective in terms of the general meeting and the highlights, and I guess if there are any, the lowlights of the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, the general meeting went very well, as they normally do. As John says, they don't gain a lot of interest from members generally, which I take it to be a good thing if they're not concerned about how the club's being run, if they're quite happy with the management team and the board and the manager, of course. So, yeah, that went well. John Timms, our finance director, gave a very good, encouraging précis of the financial situation, how strongly the club is faced going forwards. And as John Griffiths just said, we came out of the whole COVID thing very, very strongly with the membership and therefore financial, of course. We also had presentations at the general meeting from yourself, of course, regarding the magazine, and Grant gave us one regarding the archive, how we're going to try and develop that into others. Now we've got the magazines all on there, the members on the online archive. We're now trying to develop that to get other things on there, looking for input for that over the weekend. So that all went very well. Low points, I'm struggling to think of any low points, to be honest with you. Obviously, the COVID thing, I mean, that hit a lot of people very hard, inside the club, outside the club. So I'm pleased we're through that now. We can try and get some normality back for everybody, hopefully moving into the new year.
Talking of through COVID, Kirsty, I know you've just recovered in the last couple of days. You were in the unique position, I think, at that meeting, in that I believe you were the only person who was there who was, at least by the end of the weekend, a board member and a section secretary and a model registrar. So how did you find the weekend?
No, it was wonderful, actually, because it was my first board meeting, first time meeting many members of the board. And, we've already started identifying where I could be of value to the club, around events, maybe motorsport, those kind of areas. And it was really interesting to hear how the club is run behind the scenes. It's very much looking forward to spending more time with the board and getting, to do more things for the club. For me, the weekend was really great because as a relatively new section secretary and model registrar, I hadn't met most of the others. This was my first weekend away with these guys. So putting the faces to the names and being able to, collaborate with them and come up with new ideas. Things like, engagement with the members in the section is quite hard. It's quite difficult, especially during the pandemic. And I've got loads of ideas that I can take back, and I brought some ideas. And that was the spirit of the weekend for me, really, was being able to talk to each other, really, and collaborate.
I think often when people look at the agendas and the reports on things like this, it kind of looks like the board was sat up at the front of the room, talking at people. But it really was more about sharing ideas between section secretaries and model registrars, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. We spent a lot of time talking. We've made a great big list of things that we want to think about, try, share. So one of the highlights for me as well was talking about the new website. It's coming up. very, very excited about the new website.
Yeah, we'll probably get David to give some highlights on that in a second. Yeah. Actually, David, from the other side, if you like, as the director responsible for the development of registers, what were some of the highlights of the weekend for you?
Well, I think, firstly, we've skipped over what was in the car park. So whenever we all get together, it's always a big highlight for me when you see all of our cars all in the hotel car park. I would say there were several Julias, Giuliettas, MiTos, a Brera, a 156 station wagon. There's Grant's old Alfetta GTV. There was a Sud 159. And I think I'm right in saying Kirsty turned up in a C, which was both the most expensive car in a car park and drew the most attention, not just because Kirsty was in it, of course. I think for me as both a registrar and someone on the board responsible for the registers, there's a real difference between sections and registers, and it's around geography. Sections are geographically relatively close to the members, and so getting them together isn't too tremendously difficult. Registers don't have that advantage. So as registrars, we often tend to sit in our little rooms at home and nerd it up about our specific model that we love, and we capture data and we do a bit of Facebook and what have you. I think for me, it was the first time where we'd all got together and registrars were talking about, we could actually all get together. We could have a 2 or 3 model register gathering somewhere. We could actually have 3 or 4 gatherings for a register in 3 or 4 different spots around the UK. There's a lot more we can do online with live streaming on Facebook or with Zoom meetings of model owners and so on. So for me, it was almost the coming together of all of those different ideas that Kirsty's said about that can apply to registers despite the geographical problems. And I felt like it wasn't quite a penny drop moment, but there was certainly some opening of eyes and more debate and thinking about what's the art of the possible with a register. We've always moaned that we can't really get our members together. That's the section's job. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. I think one of the things that we learned through COVID is geography doesn't matter. You just all jump online. And there's no question in my mind that a register could get 20 or 30 model owners all on their mobile devices, showing everybody else their cars, walking through their garage and sharing info on their specific cars. So I don't know. I think for me, although the main purpose of it wasn't actually how can registrars be better at getting people in the same physical or virtual space, that was a thing that came out of it for me, and I really enjoyed that. I can see quite a few innovative and different things coming up in the coming years for a registrar. And
as Kirsty said, I think one of the highlights for a lot of people was the demo of the new website. Quite hard to describe what a new website's going to be like on a podcast, but can you give the broader membership an idea of what's coming and when?
Yeah, so I mean, look, our website isn't too bad. We've gone to an awful lot of effort in recent years to ensure that it's updated with content, that we have videos, and our photo galleries are all pretty well managed on there now. We also have all the press photo galleries. We integrate with social media. We've got our digital map of services. Obviously, we have podcasts and the virtual racing, which is all accessible via the website. So it's not horrific. The problem with the website is for all those people who gathered together, all the section secretaries, registrars, and other members, it's just hard to put content on there. And it's hard to add cool and innovative and new content like videos and albums and all the stuff that, we've tried to feature in the e-newsletters and so on that other organizations are just able to do. It's just much, much harder for us. So for our sections and for our registers, it is just a tough old job for them to update content on the website. And so the new website it's designed and built from the ground up to be really simple for us to add, share different types of new content. It's very much built around a sort of a simple user interface underpinned by WordPress, where our club officials can just drag and drop content onto the website, add new news items, create galleries and albums, add video content and so on. So the big advantage really should be our ability across our army of volunteers to be able to add innovative and new different types of content. You know, the real aim is to make that simple and fast so that we can, you know, quickly add content and quickly, you know, share content with all of our members. The other key thing with the website is the integration with our membership database. So at the moment, the only bit of integration with our database really is through the forum. And we want to expand that. You know, we want our members to be able to log in and see membership content, to be able to download interesting content. And we want to be able to restrict some of our content, not all of it for sure, but some of it just to members and have members only areas. We're also looking at cool new features where each member can have their own page. They can upload their own content. They can have a page for each of their cars and they can upload their own restoration stories and their own photos and so on. So that'll be really good. And in terms of that sort of content, the website will enable us to create opportunities to bring together our Alfa Romeo driver magazine content and the stuff that ends up on the cutting room floor that can go onto our website. It'll just be a much more streamlined member experience. They'll have the magazine, they'll have the website, they'll have a lot more content, and they'll be able to log in and see additional content that, you know, is provided as part of the membership.
Right. I think a key thing here is consistency and of look and feel as well, which we don't have in every area at the moment. That'll really help. I was going on earlier about it being sections a bit like being clubs within a club, but we want that consistency and people realising they are part of a big thing. And that was actually a big thing about the whole weekend, that it got everybody together and feeling that they are a big thing and they're not being dictated to and that they can contribute. But giving them the, you know, a powerful new web system will really help to get that online content up there consistently. Yeah, and not only that, it looks great to me too.
It does look cool.
I mean, as a member, the thing I'm most looking forward to about the new website is actually section news. I mean, as the magazine editor, we have an area of the magazine called Section News, which only comes out every 2 months and has a deadline almost a month ahead of that. So the last thing is news. And there really hasn't been an easy way for section secretaries, other than email or their own e-newsletters, to get that news out there. And I think one of the things we've talked about in the past is, you know, encouraging people not just to go to their own section meetings, but to go to adjacent sections, or, you know, have a day out and go to a section a little bit further afield. And without that kind of mechanism to find out what's on in other sections, if you're not receiving that section's emails or newsletters, I think there's always been a bit of a gap there that hopefully the section secretaries will be able to close themselves once the new website's up and running. And
once they're shown how easy it is, then that hopefully will encourage people to publish that content more quickly, keep everything bang up to date, and so on and so on. That said, you know, a number are very good at it, and to give them the tools to make it even better is an important thing to show. I suspect Kirsty's got a big pile of stuff waiting to go on there as soon as a virtual pile of stuff.
Add lots of stuff. It'll be as easy to use that as it will be to put content on Facebook, I think, and that's important. Yeah, the demo was really good to show to everybody, I must say, and this whole concept of drag and drop is brilliant. There's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about on the podcast this week. Before we do that, any other thoughts or observations on the weekend before we move on? Obviously, there was a formal agenda, but it was also an opportunity just to get together and talk to people and socialise with other people in the club. It certainly was. And one of the best bits was after the formalities is naturally going into the bar and before having dinner. And I was able to interact with people from all over the place, because not everybody's been a member for ages. For example, we've got Greg Solman from Cornwall, who's just become the section secretary way down there. And although I'd interacted with him on text, it was great to have an natter to him and to capture his enthusiasm one-to-one. The two guys running the Alfa Register, who I've not met before, Gary and Ian, it was brilliant just to have a natter over a pint.
and to just see how enthused they are about the whole thing. So this was going on for hours after the event, and I think was probably one of the most powerful things about bringing everyone together. And it was really, really, great to see.
I've known Ian for a long time. When I had an Alfa Sud Sprint, I used to regularly, about once a month, I'd go and empty the entire contents of my bank account into just Sud's bank account just to keep it on the road. But and Greg, for those of you who haven't had a chance to meet him yet, has agreed to be on a podcast over the next couple of months. We've got quite a good lineup that I'll talk about at the end of this episode. But Greg's definitely one that we're gonna talk to later on.
MiTo owner, that's where he gets his positive attitude from.
Yes.
Good man.
Okay, so that was that weekend. Next weekend is the Classic Motor Show at the NEC, and as usual, we've got quite a presence, John.
We have, yeah. It's going to be, I feel, one of the best we've done in some time, assuming everybody arrives okay and there's no challenges along the way. We don't have to whistle up all the reserve machines. Once again, we're in Hall 1, the premium hall, as it's called, right near the main entrance, next to the sponsors stand, Lancaster Insurance. And we like to have a theme. Sometimes they get a little bit stretched, but it was really good with the new Giulia GTA and GTA M coming out for this year. It kind of naturally lent itself to have GTA as the core theme this time. The last time we did that was in 2002 when the 156 GTA came out, and I remember going along with my son, who was very young then, and forcing him to polish the cars. That was great. But for this one, we've got some tremendous cars lined up. So I'll whistle through them. I think we said we'd like to kind of keep some of this so it's a little bit of a surprise. But for the podcast, we thought we'd let on. So we've got a large stand, but coping with COVID at the show, we need to leave quite a good bit of space between each car on the stand. So we've got 8 in a nice star arrangement on our square stand, with the club's core point at the centre, loads of flags and bunting, you name it. But working from oldest to new, we've got Keith Roberts' fantastic 1750 Zagato Grand Sport 6C from 1932 that's actually was once owned by Nick Mason in the 1970s and 80s. It's a really well-known car in those classic circles, and of course it pushes the GTA element a bit because it was well before that nomenclature was ever used. But it's certainly a lightweight and powerful machine.
For younger listeners, Nick Mason's obviously famous for owning a Ferrari 250 GTO with the registration 250 GTO, and I believe he may have played drums in a band at some point as well.
He might have done, yeah. He might have done. Then, of course, we've got 3 fabulous cars dated from the 1960s when the GTA name properly came out. So we've got a road-going machine belonging to Richard Norris, a GTA Stradale. He had a car on our stand, I think it was 2013, but that was the one we initially looked at. But apparently he's got a new one that's even better. So looking forward to seeing that beast. We've got racing driver extraordinaire Ros Shaw bringing her wide-bodied GTA M along. That's resplendent in its Jägermeister colour scheme. And then one of the wonderful Alfaholics GTA Rs is coming, which is famous from the small screen, with Chris Harris recently wanging it around various places on Top Gear. Then we're into the 2000s GTAs. Got the GTA Sprint Racer belonging to Mike Stark. That's a super light sprinter with a 3.8 expanded engine that's really terrific to look at. And that was actually built from the shell of one of the original UK press cars. I'm just going to look back into my archive to see if it wasn't one of the press car we had back on the stand in 2002. I must do that. I have to find out the reg number.
That's the one I think that Ed McDonough wrote about in the latest issue as the outright Alfa Romeo hill climb record holder for the UK.
Yeah, that's the one. We've had it on the stand about 5 years ago, but he's made a few modifications to it since then and a bit of a repaint too. So it'd be lovely to see that one. We've then got Salvatore Vitali's magnificent 156 GTA in black, one of the nicest in the country. And Clive Baker, who's the Somerset section secretary, he's got a very standard 147 GTA, which was actually a Malaysian market model with Sally Speed gearbox. But it's nice and original, doesn't have a load of modifications on it. We've had a couple of wonderful cars on the stand in the past from Paul Curry and Ben Cook, which were both very modified 147 GTAs. So we thought we'd have a standard one. And then, after much effort, we've managed to get hold of Alfa UK, who are going to bring along a GTA stroke GTAM. We're not 100% certain which one yet, but we are promised it. So that's really coming right up to date. And I think as I started the show kind of thing, we do try and appeal to everything. And here you go, spreading from 1932 to 2021 with our cars at the Classic Show. So hopefully something for everybody.
I was lucky enough to have a GTAM for a day last week.
But did you give it back? That's the question.
Unfortunately, I did, yes. Yeah.
Well, still smiling. So.
Still smiling. It's just brilliant. Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge on some of the roads. So the PR manager suggested a route around Newbury and Wantage, which was it was actually really nice photographically, not too demanding in terms of driving roads, but really narrow. And of course, sitting on the left hand side of the car, you kind of it's a big wide car.
Yeah.
So you're trying to position the car so that you're not hitting the gutter or the traffic coming the other way. So we did a little bit of video work, which you'll see on YouTube at some point in the next few weeks.
Oh,
and we had a camera mounted on the offside rear door looking at the wheels. So when the wheels turn around the corner, of course, that made it even wider.
Oh, God.
So there's quite a lot of bits on that video where you suddenly see the car veer over as a car comes in the opposite direction. And I'm kind of looking over to check that I'm not actually in the hedge. It was great fun.
It's only £160,000. I don't know what you're worrying about.
It's only 155,000 at the moment with the exchange rate. It's an absolute bargain.
Yeah.
And that was you had the GTAM, didn't
yes.
you? So I hate to say it, but they genuinely were pointless rear doors with that one. Then
they are. They are. Well. It's much easier to get your helmet out of the elasticated helmet restraint cubby hole in the rear by opening the back door.
You wouldn't get the scaffold poles in the back with no doors, would you?
My son was with us doing some of the driving duties for the camera car, and he opened the rear door and said, "It's a bit cheap that there's no door handles on the inside of the rear door." I said, "Well, I'm not sure who would use them."
Probably got his eyes on it.
For those who haven't seen it, most of the rear doors is actually plastic as well. There's a plastic outer skin, plastic window, and then a very luxurious Alcantara inner door skin on it. But it makes actually a strangely satisfying clunk when you close it, despite the fact that it doesn't weigh anything and it's all plastic.
Blimey, I didn't realise that. I thought they left the aluminium skin on it, but oh wow.
No, well, it might be an aluminium frame, but it's got a plastic outer,
in the middle,
outer skin and plastic windows, and plastic rear windscreen, and
cannot wait to see it up close. That'd be fantastic.
The green one turned up at Brooklands, the Auto Italia day. There's also a lot of machinery down there anyway. But as that drove in, everybody stopped and was like, "Wow!" You stopped what they were doing and watched it drive past. So.
I'm looking forward to the reaction at the show as well, because it'll be the first indoor show proper that car's done. And I'm remembering back to 2008 at the NEC when our stand was in one of the halls that adjoined the supercar show. I think one ticket got you into both. And we had a red 8C Competizione. And as people came out of the supercar show, it was flooded. I've never seen. Okay, it's a classic car show, and we had some TZ2 on the stand, but my gosh, we were fighting people off the thing. It was tremendous. And then you got people actually drawn to the club. I've got a 156. People were going, but it's not the club for those, is it? Yes, it is. Come over here. It was brilliant fun.
It's the first indoor show this year.
The first big indoor show that car could have been at. Yeah, so. It should be really, really good. The NEC Classic, although there are a few, let's call it restrictions around COVID access, all very sensible. I think ticket sales are going extremely well. So I wouldn't be surprised if 100,000 turn up again over the 3 days of opening. Not forgetting that as a club member, you can get £4 off the admission if you go to the club forum.
And the other thing it's worth mentioning about our presence on the stand, all the all the usual suspects will be there. Nick will be there. I'll be on and off over the Friday and Saturday if you can't avoid me. But we'll also have James Browning there on Friday and Saturday. So James is the Giulia GTA brand ambassador for Alfa Romeo. So if you have got any questions about GTA, GTAM, or about the current Alfa range in general, James will be around on the stand for most of Friday and Saturday. So we've talked a bit about what's happening during the day on our stand and around the show at the NEC. But there's a big event on Friday evening as well, isn't there, David?
Well, yeah. And we mentioned earlier about us being awarded the Club of the Year in 2020. That was done virtually, but normally they do it as part of the NEC Classic Motor Show, and that's happening on the Friday evening, I think. So Classic and Sports Car magazines are hosting their Club Awards night. We haven't been put forward for the Club of the Year. It felt a bit awkward that they'd obviously want to give it to us a second year running, but we'd save them that embarrassment. So we've been put forward for digital media, which covers everything that we're doing in non-print form in terms of the website, e-newsletters, videos, galleries, podcasts, virtual racing, and so forth. We're also put forward for the Best Magazine guy, which I'm sure we'll have a very good shot at, and also the category of Best Event for National Alfa Day, our record-breaking event. So, look, we're in 3 categories. I don't know if we'll have a chance, given that we'll be handing back the Club of the Year mantle. I don't know if that will affect our chance in other areas, but it should be a good night in any event, and it would be nice to see the other clubs there as well.
Okay, I think that's probably it about the NEC. I'm really looking forward to that next weekend. The last thing we're going to talk about was our friends at Pirelli in Burton, Nick, are going to do another event for club members.
Yeah, yes, they kicked this off over the COVID and lockdown period. They did a few for us, live virtual presentation from their flagship workshop. And they've offered to do another one for us on the 24th of November, which again, all members can join. There's a virtual event. The details are on the forum for that. And there's a special treat this time that we've got 20 tickets for members to go, local members to go and watch it live. They'll be laying on sandwiches and drinks and things beforehand. Details of how to apply for those tickets are also on the forum. So I believe the presentation this time is on winter and electric vehicle tyres, and there'll also be a Q&A session at the end of it for them.
I wonder what the lead time for a Tonale tyre is.
Possibly not. No, it should be really good. People from our East Midlands section went there in early 2019, had the physical tour. Sadly, I was absolutely full of a bug, so I didn't get to go myself. But apparently the equipment they've got is second to none, and there's some fascinating stuff to see up close. So I'm sure they'll bring that out on video as well. I think they're using Vimeo for that, which is really quite a powerful tool with their 4K cameras and all that. So should be really good. Yeah, the winter tyres one I thought was really good. They got a great demo of that, so be good fun.
I was really impressed with their this isn't probably what they call it. I'm sure they've got a more advanced name for it. What I call their tyre hotel. So if you've got winter and summer tyres, they'll store them at the relevant times of year and they'll swap them over for you, sort of thing. They've got this whole tyre hotel thing going on for your winter.
It's all free, yeah.
Brilliant.
We've got at least 2 guys in our section use that, and they put their Sotter Zeros on for winter, and they're all tucked away nicely. They're really, really good service, and they do the flip over for free. Really, really good.
I know this is an overused phrase, but I think hopefully this is a good example of the new normal for these kind of events. So they did the face-to-face one, then they did the Zoom ones, and now they're doing a combo of the two. So hopefully we'll see more people doing things where if you're able to go and you can get there physically, you get the full experience. But if you aren't, you still don't miss out. Yeah,
we're thinking of doing that with our East Midlands section in December. We've got a speaker night, so we might set up with a Zoom session running from somebody's mobile phone.
We saw quite a bit of that last year over the lockdown with the section Zooms that we put on. There were several people joined from well outside those sections. We're just happy to come along, see people on screen, introduce themselves. As we've had as a theme through this podcast, it seems to be the future, I think. Yeah.
As far away as Aroc USA, I believe, on one of the section Zoom meetings.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be good. Brilliant. I think that's probably all we've got time for in this episode. Thank you all for joining. We'll get together again probably early in the new year, I would have thought, given the other episodes that we've got lined up. But
hopefully we can talk about those awards. But that's
we may sneak one in if we win.
So we'll miss it out.
It'll be all over our social media if it happens like that.
So it's been a pleasure as always. I look forward to seeing you again on the next round table. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.
As I mentioned earlier, in our next episode, I'll be talking to James Browning, the GTA and GTAM brand ambassador for Alfa Romeo, which I'm really looking forward to. As usual, episode 45 will be available from the club's website, Podcast Addict, Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, and everywhere else good podcasts are found, from 1:30 p.m. on Sunday the 21st of November. Until then, stay safe.